Using the right one. All right. So if you guys are all signed up for classes that you want to sign up, you can argue you cannot get into the classes that you want to sign up.
Are you saying that most of the 360 classes are closed by now?
Well, I cannot tell from my interface, because unless I pretend to be a student to try to sign up, I cannot know whether a class has closed or not. So all I can do is to show you guys, the options, the alternatives of that class. It is very likely that, most, if not all, of those classes have closed already at this point. So you go to cisp300. There are basically three sections. There are three classes. You can tell from this part here. So 12138, 15172, and 12142 are the three sections of cisp360. The first one is the only one that is completely face-to-face, kind of like this class with a face-to-face lab to go with it.
I was wondering, you said the prerequisite either this class or 370, which is a Visual Basic.
Right.
And how are we going to be doing recursion and all that stuff too in the C++ class?
No, you will not be doing recursion in the C class. However, the use of recursion in this class is not really to talk about recursion. It's because recursion will expose any type of misunderstanding of subroutines, local variables, parameters, and so on and so forth. In other words, someone, without any exposure or writing any code in recursion may think that he or she already understands, subroutines and parameters and all that stuff, but that really is not the case. But when you do recursion, if you can track recursion and actually execute a recursive subroutine by hand on a piece of paper, that to me is a much better indicator that you already understand all those concepts. Okay? And those are the concepts that you need to understand in a C class and all the other classes after a C class. And that's why we talk about recursion so much. It's not because recursion is such a good thing to have. It is useful for certain things. It's not really so useful in general. However, it is a very good indicator to see whether people truly understand the concepts of subroutines and whatnot. There are different philosophies of what should be taught and how it should be taught in this class. There are people who think it should be experimental, which means I should be teaching this class using Python or in some sort of real programming language, so that you guys can write the code and actually see the result of running that code. But I choose not to do that because I don't want people to learn programming in an experimental way. Okay, I want people to write the code knowing exactly what it is going to do. Okay, not write the code thinking, I think it might do this. Run it. Oh, it doesn't really quite do that. I'll make some random changes to see if the random change will steer the program to the direction that I want to go. That is not the way to write programs. You can write simple programs that way. Okay, simple programs obviously can be written in a kind of how do you call it, trial and error method. But when you're dealing with a much larger program, you definitely need planning. You need to know what each line is going to do, and then design your program, according to what you know that the program will do. Okay. So at any rate, we have these three sections from ARC. We have one from Iraj, which is completely face-to-face, and I think that one was closed as of last Friday. I asked my Friday class last Friday, and my students told me it's already closed. Okay, a few students said, but it's not even time for me to sign up classes. Nope, it's gone already. So people with higher priority have already taken up all the seats in that class. The remaining two sections are what we call hybrid classes, which basically means the TBA portion is online. The portion that actually has a room number assigned is face-to-face. So in this case, the lecture is entirely online. Okay? So there won't be any professor, Damon Antos is not going to stand in front of a classroom to explain concepts in C++ programming. You're supposed to read a book, possibly with supplementary material from the professor to learn how to do programming. The portion that is somewhat hybrid, which means the portions is online and portions is offline, is the lab portion, because you can see that this is a lab portion, and in this case the lab portion meets on Friday from 9 a.m. to 11:50. So what that means is, knowing David, I know that the lab portion is going to be mandatory. You have to get to go to the lab portion. And what he will do is he will combine a little bit of lecture along with the lab portion. Okay? In other words, you go to the lab, you go to room 128, and you do your homework. As you're doing your homework, the professor will be around to answer your questions. In other words, you can say, this, Professor Antos, my program is not working. This is what I have so far, and this is the behavior of the program. Can you give me a pointer, as to how to fix the program? And he can walk over, look over your shoulders and see what the program is doing or is not doing and give you some pointers. So that is still helpful when you're doing your homework assignment. And David will probably arrange some mandatory activity during the lab time, like a short quiz or some other activity to earn points for the lab portion. But even the lab is not entirely face-to-face. A portion of that is also TBA, which means you have to do some of the work at home as well. Okay. Now, personally, I do not know how to teach a class online, so you can quote me too on that, because teaching a class online is just difficult. Okay. The grading part is okay. It doesn't matter whether it's online or offline, but the instruction part, I think it's really hard to do it online, especially for a class like a programming class where interaction and a question and answer session is really helpful. So anyway, but you only have these three choices. There are no other classes. Yep.
Is this a C programming class?
Yeah, this is the C++ programming class. It doesn't say that in the title, but this is our C++ class. They talk about C++ for the most part, and they only talk about some C-specific features, I think, toward the end of the semester. Okay. Any other questions? Yep.
Is C++ still widely used, or is it, it's still widely used like Java? Java's used a lot nowadays.
It depends on what type of programming you're talking about. If you're talking about, let's say, cell phone programming, the Android uses Java. And I think the Apple iPods have changed from Objective-C to something else. Does anyone know for sure? How to?
There's still Objective-C.
Okay, Objective-C is based on C, but it is not C++. Okay, Objective-C is actually what an object-oriented C should have been, but because it is not invented by the people in the Bell Lab, it was never adopted as the object-oriented C programming language, and C++ became the quote-unquote standard for that purpose. But if you know C++, the transition to Objective-C would be much smoother because they share almost exactly the same syntax. It's just that with certain concepts, certain constructs, they behave slightly differently. If you know C++ first, you can also transition to Java because Java, for the most part, share a lot of constructs with C. It is different, but it is also, you can definitely tell Java is somewhat derived from C and C++. So C++ is a good language to learn because it fans out to a lot of the programming languages that we use today, and the syntax and most of the constructs are similar to C++. Okay. And you also need that class to get into the other classes, like cisp 400, 430, and so on and so forth. Okay. So, are there any questions regarding what classes you should be taking? It's just cisp 360 for most people, and I would try to get it out of the way as soon as possible. Because if you cannot get into the class that you want to get in next semester, the chances of you getting the classes that you want to get into in the fall is not any better. If anything, it's going to be worse because we will be facing additional FTE cuts, which means there will be fewer and fewer classes as time goes on. So that's bad. That is really bad. Okay, so with that out of the way, we'll go ahead and go back to our practice test and make sure that we cover all the... I just can't type my password today. All right. So let's go back to this class, Tuesday, Thursday, and back to the practice exam. Let me see. 6 people have tried it. All right. That's not very encouraging. It's not just, the question itself that is important. It's actually the practice of using the Moodle interface to take an exam that is important. Okay, because I don't want any surprises just because people don't know which button to click, how to upload a file, that sort of thing. So this can be good, can be bad. It is possible that majority of the class feels so confident that they know exactly how to do it. They don't need to try it out. But I would still advise people to try it out once. Okay, you don't even have to answer the questions the way you're supposed to answer the questions. Just upload a file. Okay, whatever file. Just upload the file. Make sure you understand the process, and make sure that you feel comfortable with the interface. That's all I want people to do with this interface. So 6 out of a class of 30 is not exactly. It does not inspire confidence. Yes.
Will it still be online until the day of the final?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All the resources that you see right now will continue to be online until the end of the semester, including the day of the final exam. So I'm not going to take any resources away, including the practice questions and the answers to the practice questions. So all of that will be maintained on Moodle online, until grades are due at least.
The answers to the practice exam are what we're covering in class today?
Yeah, we'll continue to cover that. We have covered portions of that already. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how much of that has been covered. Then we can find out where we're supposed to start today. See, the file is already uploaded. These are the files that we captured on Tuesday this week. So we go ahead and take a look at that. Because I just need to see what questions have been covered so far. So we covered the first question. We covered the 4th question. That's actually the 4th one. And so we have the 2nd and the 5th to cover. The 5th one is done already, so we only have one more program to deal with. Let me switch back to the test.
What's the time of the final?
2 hours. Yeah.
Start.
It's in the syllabus. I cannot remember.
I think it's the 16th at 10:15, but I might not be right.
That's right.
So according to this, it is the 16th, and the time is 10:15 to 12:15. So we have exactly 120 minutes for the exam. And how many people have signed up in the lab already? They will ask you to sign a little piece of paper, and that's it. That's the entire process. Okay? So you want to do that before the 16th because you don't want to waste time on the 16th to do that. You want to be sitting in front of a computer, logged into Moodle already, with all the windows opened that you think will be helpful, and you just wait for 10:15 to come. Okay, that's the ideal way to prepare for the test. Is have everything ready. You're just waiting for Moodle to open the test.
Is there a certain section of the lab you don't want to see?
We are going to use section C. If we filled up section C, then we'll also use portions of section B in the lab. Okay. Any questions? Has anyone prepared your own, electronic file, so that you can look up information really, really quickly? If you have not done that, I would suggest that. Just as you study for this class, every time you encounter a concept, something that you think, I probably want to look it up again during the test, use your own, document. Because, if you use your own document, chances are you know where to find it, okay, as opposed to my documents. Yep.
When we take an exam, will we be able to hide the exam so we can open up our own documents to look at them?
Yes, you can. Yep, I do not place any restrictions as far as the browser is concerned. So you can definitely, minimize or open up as many windows as you want, switch between the windows, use Google, go online, search for particular concepts if you want,